Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, March 11th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. 1 year ago, on March 11, 2020, SVG recorded its first COVID-19 case. And on that same day, the World Health Organization, the WHO, declared the outbreak of COVID-19 a pandemic. The first case here at SVG was imported, a female who returned home from the United Kingdom. To date, SVG has since recorded 1,674 cases of COVID-19, with 552 active cases and 8 deaths. The year has been anything but normal. A number of persons who were placed on the breadline, with several businesses closing down. The economic pinch was felt in every sector of the economy, with the hotel and tourism industry hardest hit. Protocols and social distancing became the buzzwords. Currently, there is a national vaccination drive in which Vincentians are being encouraged to get vaccinated so that things can get back to some form of normalcy. Though the vaccination rollout started at a slow pace, to date, more than 8,000 Vincentians have been vaccinated. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Gerald Thompson said it has been a long, winding road, noting that in 2020, SVG did well in managing the virus until the end of the year, when there was a spike in cases.
Being able to do our own PCR testing, having the isolation center at Argyle, being able to establish a number of these flu clinics to be able to get healthcare, moving again. But more importantly, it's been the educational process. We brought our students, sailors, and many Vincentians back home safely. Economically, it was not that bad compared to a number of other islands. However, I think that now, in spite of a spike at the end of that year, you can say the beginning of 2021, there is now some bright light and hope. And I think this thing is in full sight that can guide us for the upcoming year of 2021.
Dr. Thompson said that there were many lessons learned, noting that Vincentians are resilient people. He said that now that the vaccines are here, he projects a faster recovery to normalcy once the majority of the population gets vaccinated.
Hope is certainly that by the by the end of April, going into May, we would have utilized all these 40,000 vaccines and we're certainly ready for another batch of vaccines to complete the rest of our society to achieve community immunity. We have a human spirit. Vincentians are quite inquisitive. They want to learn, they want to be educated, and they want to be assured that the information that is being given to them is correct and accurate.
Today at the walk-in vaccination site at the Victoria Park, nurses were busy administering vaccines. One staff nurse noted that 1 year ago they were dealing with the unknown when it came to COVID-19, but now it is a different time.
It's a pandemic. Everybody is scared. So it's obvious, yes, there was a scare. Yeah, I mean, persons know ways to manage the pandemic now, so I don't think there's much of a fear now. Better equipped in terms of we have more knowledge about the virus. We've had more equipment. As you notice, we have been doing our own testings here. Also, we have the gears and so on to protect ourselves. So.
On a daily basis at the Victoria Park, more than 100 vaccines are reportedly administered, but it has not been easy for the nurses administering the vaccines or those being vaccinated.
For the most part, their fear is just the needle. Yeah, because as usual, most people, they just need a little assurance and stuff like that. It's just that those whose pressure are extremely too high, they let them rest a little and come back. But for the most part, those people who are coming know about the vaccine and side effects and that they need 2 doses of the vaccine.
The most challenging part has been just reassuring them that, okay, it is safe and explaining the side effects. That's just one of the main challenges. And I mean, persons are receptive to it. I mean, we've been having more than 100 at least a day. For last week, I wasn't here, but the numbers were up last week. And on my personal observation, I noticed that we're having more males than females.
Our news team spoke with some persons at the Victoria Park today who were vaccinated. They noted that they were hesitant to take the jab but were encouraged to do so and are happy to get it over with even if it is the first dose.
Today, well, many who want to call me uncle call me and tell me to come and take my vaccine. So that's why I come. Otherwise, I didn't going to come. Guy gave me a good advice. So that's all pretty.
So how are you feeling now having taken the vaccine?
Well, I'm feeling good. Feeling good to take the vaccine.
But I know vaccine is good, so I make up my own mind. Like about being asked to come straight here one time, go live alone. The pressure is sometimes high, sometimes low. But normal this morning. So I come in one time.
Feel the same, and my son is who convinced me to take the vaccine. So I just decided to come and take it now. So slightly, but I get convinced and think about it and realize that it's supposed to be a good thing. You know? I'm done with it. Over.
And SVG on Wednesday reported 4 new positive COVID-19 cases from 85 samples received and processed on Tuesday, March 9, 2021, resulting in a positivity rate of 4.7%. 7 persons were cleared, bringing the number of total recoveries to 1,114. The public continues to be urged to use a mask, sanitize, physically distance, and get vaccinated to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in SVG. The walk-in vaccination site at the Victoria Park will continue to Saturday, March 13th, 2021. SVG today joined the rest of the world in observing World Kidney Day under the theme, Living Well with Kidney Disease. To mark the occasion, consultant nephrologist at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, Dr. Tawana Brown-Caesar, in a statement, urged persons with chronic kidney disease to aim for a balanced life, even in circumstances of restrictions on physical interactions that became necessary as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. She expressed an understanding of the fact that kidney patients and their relatives can become overwhelmed to the point where their entire lives seem to revolve around the illness, and said that this situation can be compounded by physical and economic constraints. However, Dr. Brown-Caesar stressed the importance of seeking to break loose from the shackles of the condition to live as normal a life as possible with kidney disease. Dr. Caesar said that the process of patient education is paramount and that patients, along with their loved ones and caregivers, should participate in making decisions on patient well-being. The dialysis team at the Modern Medical and Diagnostic Center helps persons with kidney disease maintain some level of normalcy in their lives. Dr. Brown-Caesar pointed out that World Kidney Day activities for this year was severely curtailed by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the high vulnerability of the target group. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, however, continues to ensure that patients with both chronic kidney disease and COVID-19 exposure to COVID-19, including persons who develop acute kidney injury as a result of the coronavirus infection, have access to dialysis services. In other news, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said he will be meeting with Executive Director of the National Insurance Services, the NIS, to discuss the question of the continuation of the $300 unemployment benefit to persons who were laid off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The temporary unemployment benefit was implemented last April by the NIS to provide some cushion to vulnerable workers from the economic displacement brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Over 1,000 persons have benefited from the NIS program for 9 months ending in December 2020.
I know $300 is not a whole heap of money, but at least it helps you while you're trying to do something else. And even if you're working half-time or something like that, it keeps you at a particular level. And it includes the money given to the individuals who are seafarers, the sailors. And the Minister of Finance, Camilo, announced that in the new round, given the fact that we have had the schools closed this year, that we have to give at least another payment.
Earlier this week, Minister of Finance Camilo Gonsalves announced that Cabinet has agreed to continue at least for the next 2 months the financial support to school vendors who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And 291 students under the Zero Hunger Fund Adopt a Classroom program will receive a food hamper valued at $200 EC. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said on the radio yesterday that the distribution of the food hampers started on Monday, March 8th and will conclude on Friday, March 19th.
Each of the 291 students in this program will receive a basket of goods valued at $200. The items have been procured on the advice of the nutrition unit within the Ministry of Health. In 2 schools, in Fancy and Sandy Bay, we have experimented with providing the students, 58 of them, through their parents with the actual funds, not food. They will, however, each receive a check of $200. Those are the ones in Fancy and Oya, Fancy and Sandy Bay. Thus, in all, 349 students are benefiting from this distribution.
PM Gonsalves also noted that next week, Tuesday, March 16th, 350 persons under the Golden Years Nutrition Support Program will receive food gift certificates and $300. Also on the radio on Wednesday, Prime Minister Gonsalves announced that he will be leaving the country next week, Wednesday, March 17th, to accompany his wife, Eloise Gonsalves, who will be undergoing a back surgery in the USA. PM Gonsalves said he will be out of the state for at least 3 weeks to ensure that his wife gets the requisite support that she needs.
In September, I went to the USA with Eloise to do all the checkups and everything, and hoping that we could get the operation to her potentially serious problem relating to her spinal condition. But we have just been able to get recently the appointment date from the surgeon, and that will take place. There's some further tests will have to be done shortly after we get up, and then the following week, after we get up on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, we do further tests, and then the following week, on the Monday, God willing, keep my fingers crossed that we get the operation done, and I have to stay with her for a little while for recuperation and to make sure that she has the requisite support systems.
And Vinlec has announced financial relief measures for its customers. In a news release issued today, the company says it remains committed to supporting all efforts to safeguard the health and wellness of all Vincentians as we continue to adapt to major changes associated with COVID-19, and that during the upcoming months, it will continue to provide assistance to customers. The measures of relief for customers are as follows: a moratorium on disconnection of service for domestic, commercial and industrial customers for the period March to May 2021. A 10% discount on the basic energy charge on domestic, commercial and industrial accounts for the period March to May 2021, and a waiver on the reconnection fee for all customers whose accounts have been disconnected. Customers with renewable energy generating systems will also see a 10% reduction in the rate paid by Vinlec for the energy that is purchased by the company. The company says customers with queries can contact its offices. Lead scientist monitoring La Soufrière volcano, Dr. Roderick Stewart, said the team has been able to set up more computers to assess the earthquakes coming from the volcano. Dr. Stewart told SVG-TV News via a telephone interview today that prior to his arrival in the state, the assessment of the seismic data were done in Trinidad and Tobago and Montserrat, noting that it is always better to monitor the earthquakes on island. He said that so far the earthquakes from La Soufrière volcano are small and are only coming from one seismic station.
What we're recording at the moment is very, very small. We're only picking them up on the closest station. And so the magnitudes, I really don't know what they are, but they're very small indeed. We're getting none of the sort of larger earthquakes that we would get somewhere like Montserrat. And that's really what the network's there to detect. We're looking for those earthquakes, because if they start occurring, that might herald a change in the volcano's activity. We think the seismic signals are actually being generated very close to the surface, maybe even inside the dome itself, but really it's difficult with only one station recording them.
Dr. Stewart said there are 8 seismic stations on island, noting that due to the terrain, it is difficult to set up these stations. He also spoke on the damage to the vegetation as a result of the gas emissions, which he said is now having an impact in various forms.
Well, I mean, we can see the impact from the observatory. There's basically a big brown streak running down the side of the volcano where the gases are basically killing the vegetation. So it's having a severe impact. And we know that people that have been quite close to the summit and exposed to the gases, some of them have had bad reactions. So the gas is not good for anyone. The gases are basically affecting the areas downwind of the volcano. So because we have a strong wind direction here, it's really only on the leeward side that we're seeing the effects of the gases. If you're upwind on the windward side, you're really not going to see much gas at all.
The monitoring team is currently putting together the data for measurements taken of the new dome, which Dr. Stewart said continues to grow with no other changes taking place. The seismologists used the opportunity to issue a stern warning to people who continue to visit the volcano for sightseeing.
I would give the sternest possible warning. If you see the photos, our staff only go up there with safety equipment. They will have gas masks, they may have hot suits on, and they will be in radio communication with the observatory. Because if they're close to the volcano, the hazards are just a lot greater, and something small could happen, and it could affect where you are. You could have a small explosion which just affects the area around the dome. So it's really foolish to go up there. I mean, I've been here over 2 weeks now, and I haven't been up there, and I suspect I'm not going to go up at all. I mean, we try and limit the number of people going up. We limit our exposure. So it's really foolish of anyone to go up there for some sightseeing.
And Vaccination geologist Professor Richard Robertson, who heads the UWI Seismic Research Center in Trinidad, is expected to return to the state next week. In other news, Minister of Agriculture Suboto Caesar has reiterated the call for urgent, concerted and decisive action to tackle climate change, which is linked to food security. Minister Caesar was at the time addressing the forum of the United Nations Security Council on conflict and food security.
In this regard, we reiterate our calls for urgent, concerted and decisive action to tackle climate change, which is linked to food insecurity. The FAO, Oxfam, WPF must continue to play a very critical role. While we agree that conflict is a primary driver of hunger in some contexts, extreme weather events, including floods and droughts, also undermine agricultural productivity and create food insecurity. The continued suffering of our brothers and sisters in Haiti, one of the most food insecure countries in the entire world, is a painful reminder of the interlinkages between natural disasters, the political and economic instability.
Minister Caesar told the virtual forum that though St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been tried by the COVID-19 pandemic, the island has ensured that life, living and production continued.
That meet the basic needs of people in conflict settings. The Peace Building Commission, with its strategic advisory capacities and its convening platform, is also useful in consolidating our efforts across the peace and security humanitarian developmental nexus. We must leverage these capacities more often. For our part, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has accelerated our efforts to provide food security throughout our nation and across our region, and that we can feed ourselves and our neighbors. We are the breadbasket of the Southern Caribbean. Our farmers and fisherfolk remain crucial stakeholders to these efforts, and we will do what we must to support them as they continue to support us.
Veteran broadcaster Nina Maloney has passed away. Maloney's career in broadcasting started with the West Indian Broadcasting Service, and upon completion of her training at the British Broadcasting Corporation BBC, she later became general manager of the then Radio 705, now NBC Radio. Maloney traveled throughout the country, bringing weekly broadcasts of divine worship from churches, which she was instrumental in introducing, and is known for her musical program Memory Lane, featuring music of yesteryear. A current program manager at NBC Radio, Colville Harry, said though he did not get the opportunity to work along with Maloney, he had a lot of respect for her.
When I arrived at NBC, Nina had long since left. I arrived almost a decade after she left the corporation. But I recall the more personal interactions. Nina was someone who would always call me and she would say, you know, I like the way you did this, I like the way you did that. And from time to time, if I do make a mistake, she would call me and say, I think you should do better when it comes to this. And I really appreciated the feedback that Nina gave me. I remember her as someone who was very adamant and making sure that when things are done, they're done properly. Of course, I've heard stories about Nina in terms of those who worked along with her, and some of my colleagues worked along with her who I met here. And some interesting stories I might add, but Nina was really somebody that gave me, you know, the encouragement and sometimes a bit of a licking, for want of a better expression, when I slipped up, and I really appreciated that.
Harry said Maloney will be missed, noting that she still made some form of contribution to radio up to the time of her death.
Every year she would come to me and say, don't forget Remembrance Day, I need your assistance in making sure that the ceremony at the Iron Man is taken care of. And we worked closely together on that issue. Also, when it came to the Salvation Army's kettle appeal, she was front and center for that. And every year she would make sure that I have the communication, that I'm in touch with Major from the Salvation Army, that we're all saddened here at the National Broadcasting Corporation today in learning of the passing of Miss Maloney. She has certainly made her mark on broadcasting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it goes way back. She served as ultimately the chairman of the board of directors, also in the capacity of general manager, and those who remember listening to her remember her words and the way she signed on, and her musical selections, which she was known for. So I wish to extend my condolences to her immediate and her extended family.
Maloney was also a long-standing member of Seroptimus International and the Girl Guides Association. She also represented the local Guides Association on the Duke of Edinburgh Committee, and at the time of her death was an executive member of the Girls Guides Association. She was recently honored by Governor General Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan for her long-standing commitment and service to the Children Welfare Fund Committee. She was also at the forefront in the selling of poppies as a member of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Legion in remembrance of those who served during the First and Second World Wars. She was also known for her work with the local Salvation Army and the Thompson Home. The management and staff of SVG Broadcasting Corporation extend condolences to her family, friends, and colleagues. In other news, the RSVG police force is investigating the death of a young man of Spring Village. According to the police, some unknown person or persons with malice aforethought caused the death of 22-year-old Kamala Chua by allegedly stabbing him about his body with a sharp object. The incident occurred at Spring Village between Monday, March 8th and Wednesday, March 10th. A post-mortem examination is to be conducted on the body to ascertain the exact cause of death. Choa's death marks the 6th homicide recorded in SVG for 2021. Persons with information that can assist with this investigation are asked to contact the Assistant Commissioner in charge of crimes at telephone number 1784-4561-339. The officer in charge of the Northwestern Division at telephone number 1784-458-2229, or any police station or police officer you are comfortable with. All information, the police say, will be treated confidentially. Meanwhile, the police say no foul play is suspected in the death of 61-year-old domestic Sandra Sam of Greg's, whose partly decomposed body was discovered lying on the floor of her home on Wednesday, March 10th. The police say the deceased was not seen for a few days and that on Wednesday, neighbors smelled a foul odor coming from the direction of the deceased's home. As a result, the police were alerted. The police visited the scene and discovered the partly decomposed body of Sam. According to the police, further investigations reveal that the deceased was suffering from a terminal illness.